Welcome to Flekar and Inspire. Here, we bring you the stories that target your heart, challenge your beliefs, and remind you of the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Sometimes, it's not the adults who lead the way, but the quiet voice of a child that changes everything. Today's story begins in a crowded courtroom in Atlanta, Georgia, in the spring of 2025. The kind of place where justice is meant to be served, where truth is pursued, and where silence can speak louder than shouting. It was in this courtroom that something happened which no one saw coming. A moment so raw, so honest, and so unforgettable that it left even the judge wiping away tears. And at the center of it all was a 7-year-old boy named Malik. Malik was small for his age, with bright eyes and a quiet demeanor. He wore a neatly pressed blue shirt, little brown shoes that were slightly too big, and held his grandmother's hand as they entered the courthouse that morning. To everyone else in the room, he was just a child, just another minor involved in a legal case, until he stood up and pointed his small finger at a decorated police officer and said something that stopped time. But let's not jump ahead. To understand the impact of that moment, you have to understand how it all began. Malik's mother, Tasha Brown, had always tried to do the right thing. She worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over Malik's head, to pay for his school uniforms, and to keep food on the table. She had no criminal record, no history of trouble. But in December of 2024, she was arrested during a late-night traffic stop. The charge: resisting arrest and endangering a child. The incident sparked outrage in her community. Witnesses claimed she was pulled over for a broken taillight and then forcefully arrested in front of Malik, who sat screaming in the backseat. Several bystanders recorded the encounter. In the videos, Tasha could be heard asking repeatedly why she was being detained. The officer, Sergeant Brent Mallory, a 20-year veteran of the Atlanta Police Department, claimed Tasha refused to cooperate, became aggressive, and tried to run. Tasha denied all of it. But the videos told a complicated story. While it didn't show her trying to flee, it did show her raising her voice, confused, demanding to know what was happening. The footage also showed Sergeant Mallory pulling her from the vehicle and placing her face down on the pavement as Malik cried uncontrollably from the car. When the case went to court in early 2025, the stakes were high. Tasha faced the possibility of losing custody of her son if she was convicted. The courtroom was filled every day. Activists, concerned citizens, and local journalists all watched closely, waiting to see how the system would respond. Tasha's defense attorney argued that the officer had used excessive force and escalated a routine stop into a traumatic event. The prosecution stood by the officer's actions, calling him a decorated hero who acted according to training. Sergeant Mallory himself testified, stating that he feared for his safety, that Tasha's tone and refusal to step out of the car put him on alert. And then, on the 6th day of the trial, the judge approved a surprise request to hear directly from Malik. Many were shocked. It's rare for a child so young to testify in open court, especially in such a high-stakes situation. But Malik had told his grandmother something that neither side had yet mentioned in the proceedings. And his grandmother insisted that if the court wanted the full truth, they needed to hear it from Malik himself. The courtroom fell silent as Malik was brought forward. He walked up to the witness stand slowly, his little hands clutching a stuffed animal that the judge allowed him to hold for comfort. He was sworn in gently, asked if he promised to tell the truth. He nodded. The judge leaned in. "Malik, can you tell us what happened that night when you and your mom were driving home?" Malik glanced at his grandmother, then at his mom, who sat silently, eyes glistening. "We were driving home from work. Mom picked me up late, 'cause she had to clean another office." His voice was small, but it carried. "And what happened when the police stopped you?" the defense attorney asked. Malik paused. "The lights came on. Mom was scared. She pulled over." "What did she do then?" "She rolled the window down and said, 'What did I do?'" "Did she try to drive away?" "No, she just kept asking what she did." "And then what?" "The man yelled at her. He told her to get out. Mom said she didn't do anything. Then he pulled her out. She screamed." At this point, the courtroom was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. Malik, do you remember what happened next? And that's when Malik turned in his seat, looked across the courtroom, and pointed. He pointed directly at Sergeant Mallory, sitting at the prosecution table. And in a voice that cracked halfway through, he said the words that no one was prepared for. He said if she didn't shut up, he was gonna make sure I never saw her again. Gasps rippled through the room. The judge's face changed instantly. The prosecution team looked stunned. Sergeant Mallory sat frozen, his expression unreadable. Can you repeat that, Malik? The judge asked. Malik's hands gripped the stuffed bear tighter. He bent down and said, "You want your mommy to go away forever? Then tell her to shut up." Tasha sobbed into her hands. The defense attorney looked toward the judge. "Your Honor, we were unaware of this statement until now. We would like to request that it be entered into the official record." The judge nodded slowly, visibly shaken. From that moment forward, the trial shifted. New questions were raised. If Malik's statement was true, and no one had yet proven it wasn't, then the officer's conduct went far beyond questionable. It raised doubts not only about the nature of the arrest, but about the officer's credibility, his intent, and his integrity. The media erupted the next day. Headlines read, "7-year-old stuns caught with truth bomb. Child's testimony shakes Atlanta justice system. Decorated officer accused of threatening child during arrest." Public response was immediate and intense. Civil rights groups demanded an internal investigation into Sergeant Mallory's conduct. The police department, under pressure, placed him on administrative leave pending a review. City officials promised transparency. And most importantly, the judge, after 5 more days of hearings, dismissed the charges against Tasha Brown. But the story doesn't end there. What made this moment so powerful wasn't just the legal consequences. It was what it revealed about the emotional cost of systemic failure, the fear children carry when they witness violence, the trauma families endure when power is abused, and the courage it takes for a small child to speak the truth in a room full of adults who've been trained to doubt it. After the trial, Malik became somewhat of a local hero. He didn't understand why people were giving him high fives, or why strangers were thanking him at the grocery store. For him, he just wanted his mom back. He wanted to sleep without nightmares and wake up knowing she'd be there. As for Tasha, she got her life back, but not without scars. She spoke out in several interviews about how close she came to losing everything, how grateful she was for her son's strength, and how terrified she was that it took a child's voice to do what the system couldn't. And Sergeant Mallory. The internal affairs investigation found that he had several prior complaints for aggressive conduct, none of which had ever been formally pursued. But now, under new scrutiny, the department was forced to reevaluate its oversight policies. By June of 2025, he officially resigned from the force. No formal charges were filed against him, but his career was effectively over. What happened in that courtroom sparked a wave of reform initiatives across Atlanta. New training programs for officers, a push to install independent third-party reviewers for bodycam footage, and perhaps most importantly, a renewed conversation about how we treat the voices of children in the justice system. Because sometimes, it's not the experts, the lawyers, or the officers who hold the truth. Sometimes, it's a little boy, holding a stuffed bear, pointing a finger, and telling the world what really happened. Thank you for watching Flekar and Inspire. If this story moved you, share it. Let people know that silence can be broken, justice can be heard, and that even the smallest voices can shake the biggest rooms.